and welcome. You're watching NewsX with me, Devika Devan. As the US-Iran war enters its 20th day, strikes have only intensified across the region, even as diplomatic calls to curb the violence grows. Iran has shown no signs of slowing down, renewing warnings regarding energy facilities of the US and its allies, threatening that they are not yet finished. All eyes thus remain on the United States and its next move, as the war threatens global supply chains, shocks markets worldwide, and sends oil prices shooting upwards. The big question is, what's next? What's the end game? US President Donald Trump has appeared defensive over Israel's recent strike on Iran's South Pars gas field, the world's largest, pinning the blame on Israel and asserting that the US and Qatar had no knowledge of it. Even as global markets scramble, Trump did double down on threats, stating that if Iran continued to target its allies, the US will destroy the entirety of South Pars. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth echoed the sentiment while seeking as much as $200 billion more in funding because of the war in Iran. Listen in.
That is overwhelming force applied with precision. And again, today will be the largest strike package yet, just like yesterday was. As I've said from day one, our capabilities continue to build, Iran's continue to degrade. We're hunting and striking death and destruction from above.
Joining me on the broadcast, Mr. Raymond Vickery, international affairs expert, also Sumit P, political commentator, Ambassador Bhaswati Mukherjee, former diplomat, and Wing Commander Sudhakaran with us as well. Let me begin with Mr. Raymond Vickery. Mr. Vickery, I have to understand from you, I'm very curious to know, what is the domestic sentiment currently in the United States of America vis-a-vis the war now entering its 20th day? And with statements coming in from Donald Trump's team that the objectives of Israel and the US regarding the Iran war are entirely different. How does the American population feel about this?
Well, thanks very much for having me. I think that there's a growing skepticism here, even among those who have supported President Donald Trump in the past. You know, he said that he could do anything. He could shoot somebody on Fifth Avenue and his supporters would still be behind him. This is really not a reflection of reality in my view, because one of the key points upon which Donald Trump ran in 2024 was that he was a man of peace and he would bring peace and end forever wars. What he's doing in Iran is exactly the opposite. So even his own supporters, as you can see by the resignation of the number two person at the National Security Agency, are beginning to have doubts. And it seems to me that the political pressure here, it will be growing. If there is some move to actual boots on the ground, then you're going to see a real uprising, it seems to me. But so long as President Trump thinks that he can rig the midterm elections through redistricting, through his SAVE Act, which would require proof of citizenship and do away with absentee voting by and large, he will continue on this path of aggrandizement. But in my view, the shift is coming. We have a major demonstration scheduled across the United States on March the 28th, another No King's Day, which will involve millions. And I predict that particularly with the fall in the stock market, which is very near to Donald Trump's heart, that there is going to be some amelioration here. And you can see it, I believe, in this first statement about South Pars and some daylight growing between Israel and the United States. There is no strategy here from the United States perspective. There are no cooperating partners, no principles, all of which you need to wage peace or war successfully. You can't do it on the length of the chancellor's arm, which has been the Donald approach a Donald J. Trump approach to this conflagration. And so I think that you're beginning to see a shift here.
Okay, all right. Let me bring in Ambassador Bhaswati Mukherjee into the conversation as well. Ambassador Bhaswati Mukherjee, unfortunately, none of us can read Donald Trump's mind, but if you were to look at the end game, what really is the end game here as far as this war is concerned?
Well, Devika, sometimes I wonder whether Donald Trump can himself read his own mind, because his mind shifts 180 degrees from morning to evening, etc., etc. He went into Iran without a clear strategy of what does the United States, the most powerful nation in the world, want from Iran. Today we are in a situation where there is a clear contradiction between what Tulsi Gabbard said. His number two guy said there was no more nuclear threat from Iran after the attacks in June last year, and he's quit. Tulsi Gabbard has said that, has listed Pakistan along with Iran as a threat to United States in the middle and long term. And we see now that Trump has said that he was not consulted on the Israeli attack on the Iranian gas reserves, which hugely impacts Qatar. It also hugely impacts international gas prices, gas oil prices, which also hugely impacts us, Devika, by the way. But it also impacts the United States, it impacts the global economy, etc. Therefore, I would say that today what President Trump requires desperately is an exit strategy with a face saver. And I have changed my mind. I used to think white people, Goras we call them for our American guests, they don't need face savers. Face savers are only for Asians. We are hypersensitive because we were colonized nation. But I think President Trump needs a huge face saver and somebody to deliver it for him. And I would not be at all surprised, Devika, if the face saver would come from Putin. Putin can bail him out, in return for which Trump would allow him to keep captured Ukrainian territory, and he would be able to get out. Because it is very clear that the strategic aim of Israel was clear from day one. Netanyahu was clear. He is a strategic thinker. He knew what he was doing. Israel has tried to get United States involved in the destruction of Iran for a long time. But it was only Trump who was foolish enough to go along with him. And now it's very clear from signals coming from Washington that they are in a real mess, because not only is the global energy market affected, including for India, but it's affecting middle class Americans who are his support base. And even if the midterms are held the way our American guest said, I would say the midterms are not going to go well for him. And that is why I would stick my neck out, Devika, as I usually do in your program, and say the face saver should come within 6 weeks. Because otherwise, if more Iranian assets are set on fire, you would have Iranian suicide teams. This is a nation which has never been colonized. They believe in martyrdom. You would have Iranian suicide teams creating havoc all over the Middle East, on American bases in the Gulf allies, etc. And you would have Gulf allies negotiating directly with Iran. That has been happening for the last 3 weeks. We've done the same. We need gas. We need Qatari gas for 1.4 billion Indians here. We are not part of this war. We did not create this war. We want this war to end. This war is having a huge impact on India, and this war has to be ended as soon as possible. It's very clear. Americans believe in what I'm saying. The only country that does not agree is Israel, that wants to completely destroy Iran. But is that what US wants? The complete destruction of Iran so that it becomes a rogue state, or it descends into the kind of chaos that we saw in Libya or that we saw in Iraq? I don't think so. So I think it's time for the Americans to use their constitutional mechanisms, as to always admire the great American Constitution, the checks and balances I learned in my studies at Delhi University. I never ever thought that the Americans would be in a situation where you could have just one man calling the shots and all the constitutional checks and balances just going haywire. It's time for America to put its act together and get out of this war. That's what I would say. The world needs to stop this war. Devika.
All right, I want to bring in Wing Commander Sudhakaran to the conversation as well. Wing Commander Sudhakaran, a joint statement, sir, now has come from the United Kingdom, France, Germany, Italy, Netherlands and Japan on the Strait of Hormuz, wherein they've said that they are ready to contribute to appropriate efforts to ensure safe passage through the strait, and that they further welcome certain other measures such as the International Energy Agency's decision to authorize a coordinated release of strategic petroleum reserves. They're further saying that we'll take other steps to stabilize energy markets, including working with certain producing nations to increase output. But when we talk specifically about the Strait of Hormuz, Wing Commander Sudhakaran, I want to understand from your perspective, what's the future there, and what really are the options available now to some of these countries who are saying that they're willing to step up?
See, if you ask me honestly, the state of Hormuz, if somebody can decide on it, it is only Iran. Nobody else can decide on it, because see, it is not that the American ships are hitting the ships of the enemies of the US, and Iran and its allies are hitting it on the enemies of theirs. That's not the case. The case is there is a state here which America potentially, deems it as rogue, and they are controlling the strait, and without putting a single soldier on the land, America thinks through air power it can actually neutralize Iran. It's sadly mistaken, because you have to understand the terrain of Iran, because it's a very mountainous terrain. Bombs don't work there beyond a certain point. You can do precision attack, but then they understand their terrain more than anyone else. They are not tourists in their own land. So if US, UK, German, France, they say, we will send our troops to do, are they going to put the soldiers on the land and then prevent Iranians from launching the ballistic missile attacks or normal missiles or drone attacks? That's not going to happen. The moment they are going to put any boot there, there is going to be bloodshed, and it will be a potentially worse than Vietnam scenario for the US. Trump very well knows it. Otherwise, you would have seen already the Marines entering inside Iran. They know what is in stock, because mind you, Iranians are a very different breed of people. They are not the same as what Trump encountered in Venezuela, wherein he had it easy within 6 hours. Where the miscalculation seems to have happened is that they thought, by the kind of protest that was brewing up inside, and since they knew that they could knock out Khomeini in the first 2 days, the overconfidence actually did them in. Their calculations have not got added up. If you actually do a wargaming of this whole scenario, I could reduce this into 5 possible scenarios. The first scenario, of course, is a negotiated ceasefire. And let me tell you that it has got a less than 20% chance, in my opinion, for that. The second is a prolonged attrition war, which in today's given situation has a 40% or beyond chance. The reason being, the killing of Larijani has actually closed the last door that Israel and US had, that they could have leveraged to negotiate with Iran. If they keep decimating their leadership like this, any new guy who is going to come is always going to view them with suspicion and is not going to come to the table even to sit and talk. If they are not going to talk, it is invariably going to lead into a prolonged attrition war, because Iran has nothing to lose. Because it will be you are hitting on one place and they are hitting in two places, and then that's how this prolonged attrition war continues, and the chances seems to be higher. The third part is the Iranian regime collapses by some trick which CIA adopts, bringing in the Kurdish militants, or fueling the people's the kind of uprising that they had, fueling some kind of that to do it. I see that also having a 20% chance. Will it lead to a full regional conflagration, and will the nuclear thresholds be crossed? Both these factors put together could add up to another 20%. Now, if you actually look at it, everything is very delicately placed. And these 5 forcing functions, will determine which scenario wins. The most important variable right now isn't the military. It is whether Israel wants an off-ramp at all. As I already told you about Larijani's killing, which was not incidental, and Israel systematically having removed every Iranian figure capable of negotiating, like Khamenei dead, Larijani dead, Basij commander dead, Golmareza Soleimani dead. What remains in Tehran are hardliners with no diplomatic instinct and nothing left to lose. Israel built the fire and is now ensuring no one has a bucket. Now, who will douse this fire? That is the problem. The second forcing function is US domestic politics. A senior counterterrorism official just resigned, saying this war was started by Israeli lobby pressure. That is a public crack in the consensus. With no defined end state, no NATO support, and oil prices climbing, Trump is betting on either a fast Iranian collapse or a quick deal, and neither is materializing for him. The good thing in this is Trump is so thick-skinned and shameless that tomorrow he can say, I have done everything possible, I have saved the world, I have saved the Iranian people, and my job is done, and he can walk away the next minute. That is what Trump is capable of. The second thing that you would have seen today is, Israel and US were together in this war. And good or bad, they hit the oil depot south of Pars. And when that exploded and Iranians responded by hitting the Qatari gas facility, Trump has washed his hand. He was batting with Netanyahu, and suddenly he became a Bayrana. And Netanyahu is now wondering, whether to trust this man or not. So these are things that will play out. The third is the Hormuz math. Iran closing Hormuz is a double-edged sword. It's Iran's most powerful coercive tool, but it's also radicalizing the Gulf states that might otherwise mediate. Saudi Arabia and UAE are absorbing Iranian proxy strikes on their own soil. There is a point at which Gulf tolerance breaks and they actively join the US-Israeli coalition. That will transform this scenario 2, wherein this prolonged attrition could actually lead to some kind of a regime collapse. That could happen if Iran, plays it too far. The fourth angle that we need to look at is China's shadow play here. Beijing has been conspicuously absent. China buys around 30% of Iranian oil and has deep economic exposure to Hormuz. A prolonged attrition scenario is actually manageable for China because Iranians, you can understand that they have said Chinese ships we will clear.
Yes. Okay,
so
Vingamar sir, I want to bring in Sumit Peer on the third point that you raised. Sumit, Donald Trump, of course, wants his allies in Europe and NATO to join the war, and he's, as I mentioned earlier, threatening to continue bombing Iran to the point that everyone will be forced to join. But as far as the Middle East is now concerned, the actual players who are being targeted by Iran, when do you think their patience will wear thin as far as this entire conflict is concerned?
Devikaji, thank you very much for having me on your show. Let's put some things in perspective with some fact, figures and numbers. Now look at a country like Qatar. What I only sell is gas, and what they hit is only gas. Right? If gas is gone, I as a country are gone. There's nothing to sell. They are hitting UAE. They've sent more drones and missiles to UAE than Israel. That's point number 3. Point number 4, they have sent how many? 200 plus missiles to Israel and 532 drones. And they have attacked the neighboring countries more than 300 times. More than 300 times. Let me talk of Iran. I have more than 120 ships down the Persian Gulf. I have 47 mine-laying boats down the ground. My air defenses are gone. My air force is shattered. I have nothing left. I have 1.5 months of foreign exchange reserve. That is maximum I have left. And my topmost leadership is gone. Nobody can control anything in Iran. But let me quote Mr. Saud, who is the foreign minister of the Islamic Republic of, for Saudi Arabia or the Saudi, what we know him. What is he saying? He's saying that what these Iranis are doing, everything is un-Islamic. There's nothing Islamic about what they are doing. As per Islam, you're not supposed to attack your neighbors, you're attacking neighbors. As per Islam, you're not supposed to attack your fellow Muslim countries, you're attacking your fellow Muslim countries. We are taking all the brunt. And what are you doing? You are now shattering our economies. आप हमारे लोगों के पेट पे लात मार रहे हो. That is what you are doing. What is a military target in attacking a refinery, a gas installation, or my civilian population? What is Islamic about that? And you, Iran, call yourself as the Islamic Republic. You have Hezbollah. I'm quoting Mr. Saud, who destroyed Lebanon. You have yourself destroyed Iran. You have created this PMF, which is attacking Muslims in Iraq. You have created Hamas, which destroyed Gaza. This is Mr. Saud I'm counting. So these people are running out of the patience, because if they don't act for next 15 days, after 15 days they might have nothing to act, because everything will be shattered, the economies are broken, and who is benefiting? If the oil prices are going high, who is benefiting? It is America, it is Russia. If gas prices are going high, who is benefiting? It's again America and Russia. Take out our 4 biggest oil suppliers. The number one is number one is Qatar, then UAE, then Saudi, then Kuwait. And who are the alternate suppliers? Number one in the world, if you take them out, is USA, Russia, then you have Algeria, then you have Norway, then you have Canada, and some African countries. When Modi ji came to power, we were buying oil from 11 countries. Saudi was number one supplier, almost 72% of the oil they were supplying. What is the position of Saudis today? Today we have 41 suppliers. Saudi is number 4th, and 5th is United States of America. And rest are under 1.5%, 41 suppliers. As far as the piped gas is concerned, we are quite okay, plus minus. LPG 60% we have to import, but the problem is it's not about Strait of Hormuz. Are they able to produce LPG in Middle East? They are not. Their economies are shattered. They are taking the brunt of it, and now Saudis are directly saying we cannot hold it for too long. Very soon, there's a possibility Saudi jets may be flying over Tehran, and that is a very strong possibility. UAE is also contemplating that. How long can they take the beating in the name of Ummah, in the name of being Muslims, and in the name of Muslims not fighting Muslims? Is Iran respecting anything like that? So I don't call them Iran. I call them the Mullah regime, because Iran was there and Iran will be there even after these people are gone. So what is this Mullah regime up to? You say, Hindi mein kehte na, hum to डूबेंगे, सबको ले डूबेंगे sanam. I want to perish everybody. I want to perish everybody's economy. And Mr. Saud is right. What do you get by finding my refinery in Riyadh? Why are you targeting Ras Tunara? Why are you targeting Las Lafan? What are you getting by attacking them? What is military about there? How your military objectives or how your Islamic objectives are met by, taking the bread away from my people? What is Islamic about it? This is the Saudis talking. This is not me. I am just quoting him. Now, if you see the undercurrent, Devika, it is going higher. These people are desperate. I agree to the point they will fight to the last man because they have nothing to lose. Now it is up to the Americans, and Americans asking for this $200 billion. Money is important, Devika, because one day cost of the war is around $1 billion, less than $1 billion. That's what the numbers are coming out. So if they are asking for 200 billion, that means they are preparing for a 6 months war. At least if you do the mathematics, 6 से 7 महीने की लड़ाई. Okay. So then taking control of, if you look at Lindsey Graham, take control of the Kargil land, try to liberate the Strait of Hormuz, then it's the kind of war we are looking. Okay, the world prices will be shattered, economies will be shattered, stock markets will be shattered, but how can you and me, or how can Modi or BJP control that?
Yes.
We didn't start.
Unfortunately, I've completely run out of time. I wish all our panelists could have got more equitable time, but thank you so much nonetheless for joining.